Let me ask you something we don't ask often enough. Why do you wake up in the morning? I don't mean because the alarm went off. I don't mean because you have a meeting or a deadline or a child crying down the hall. I mean, why do you wake up? What is it that pulls you from sleep and tells you that today is worth showing up for? Most of us don't really think about it. We wake up because we're supposed to, because life goes on, because we have responsibilities. But there's a difference between waking up and coming alive. One is biological, the other is intentional. One happens automatically, the other it happens only when you decide it's going to happen. Winning every day doesn't start with a strategy or a schedule. It doesn't start with a to-do list. It starts with why. Purpose is the foundation of every meaningful victory, and it's also the foundation of every meaningful morning. When you understand your why, everything else changes. You stop chasing what looks good to others and start choosing what feels right to you. You stop reacting to life and begin leading it. Most people think that mindset is about motivation. It's not. Mindset is about clarity. And clarity starts with purpose. There are people who seem to walk into every day with fire in their eyes. It's not because they're smarter or luckier or have fewer problems than the rest of us. It's because they are connected to something deeper. They don't just wake up, they show up with intention. That's what training your mind is really about. It's about aligning your inner world before the outer world even gets a chance to knock you off course. But here's the challenge. Life is noisy. From the moment we open our eyes, the world starts shouting at us. Notifications, headlines, opinions, expectations. If you don't decide what your day's about, someone else will. And they'll fill it with their agenda, not your purpose. So the first mental shift you need to make is this. Don't start your day in reaction mode. Don't reach for your phone. Don't check your email. Don't ask, what do I need to do today? Instead, ask, why does this day matter to me? What is it about today, this unrepeatable, completely unique day, that gives me the chance to live into the kind of person I want to become? You don't need a grand mission statement to answer that question. You don't need to save the world. Sometimes your why is simple. To show kindness, to build something meaningful, to grow, to lead, to be present for the people who matter. The important thing is that you know your reason before the day starts pulling you in 100 directions. Think of your why like a compass. The direction doesn't change even when the terrain does. There will be distractions, there will be resistance, there will be days when nothing goes as planned. But when you know your why, you stay anchored. You don't panic, you pivot. Let me give you an example. There's a story about a man who worked in a job he didn't love. Every morning he'd wake up groggy, go through the motions, and drag himself through the day. One morning something shifted. He sat down with his coffee and asked himself, why am I doing this? And the answer surprised him. It wasn't about the job, it was about his family. He wanted to create stability to give his kids opportunities he never had. That morning, nothing changed about his job, but everything changed about the way he showed up for it. Because he wasn't working for a paycheck anymore, he was working for purpose. This is the power of reconnecting with your why. It doesn't make the hard things easy, but it makes them worth it. And that's what gives you energy. Not hype, not caffeine, purpose. It fuels you in a way nothing else can. Now, purpose alone isn't enough. You still need discipline, resilience, and all the other tools of a winning mindset. But without purpose, those tools have no direction. They're just noise. So how do you begin to train your mind around this idea? Start with 5 minutes each morning. Just 5. Before the world gets a hold of you. Sit down, breathe, ask yourself, why is today important to me? Don't try to impress anyone with the answer. Don't try to make it sound profound, just make it honest. Write it down if you have to. Keep it where you can see it. You'll be amazed what happens when you start your day grounded in intention. Small decisions feel more meaningful, distractions become easier to resist, and when challenges hit, and they always will, you respond with clarity instead of confusion. Winning every day isn't about intensity, it's about alignment, it's about bringing your actions into line with your purpose. You won't get it perfect, you're not supposed to, that's not the point. The point is to show up every day like it matters. Because it does. When you train your mind to begin every day with a sense of why, you shift from survival mode to leadership mode. You stop drifting, you start directing. That's the first win of the day. When you win that first battle, the battle for your focus, your mindset, your purpose, every other challenge becomes easier to face. So tomorrow morning, don't just wake up on purpose. And remind yourself that the day ahead isn't just another box on the calendar. It's a chance to be who you're here to be. That's where every real victory begins. Now, the paradox most people never truly understand. The more disciplined you are, the more freedom you have. At first, that sounds backwards. Freedom is doing what you want when you want, right? No alarms, no rules, no pressure. But ask anyone who's ever lived that way for too long. They'll tell you it doesn't feel like freedom. It feels like drifting, like chaos, like regret in slow motion. True freedom is not the absence of structure. It's the result of choosing the right structure. And that structure is discipline. Discipline is not about punishment. It's not about grinding yourself into exhaustion. It's about alignment. It's about consistently choosing actions that move you in the direction of who you want to become, even when it's inconvenient. When we talk about training the mind to win every day, we have to understand this. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. Everyone has goals, but goals don't get you anywhere unless you build habits and systems underneath them. And that's what discipline is made of. Most people are chasing high-performance outcomes without building high-performance foundations. It's like trying to build a skyscraper on sand. You can dream all you want, you can visualize, you can post your goals on the wall, but unless you're willing to do the work consistently, especially when it's boring or hard or inconvenient, you won't see progress. Not real progress. And that's what discipline gives you, real, earned, steady progress. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine a musician. She wants to play on the world's biggest stages, but she doesn't wait for inspiration. She practices scales when no one's watching. She plays the same section over and over again until it sounds just right. Not because it's fun, but because that's how mastery works. What looks like talent on the stage is really discipline in disguise. Discipline behind closed doors creates excellence in public. It's the same for anyone who wins consistently. They have rituals, routines, systems. Not because they're robotic, but because they understand that freedom to perform, real, confident, earned freedom comes from putting in the reps. And here's the key. They don't just have discipline in their actions, they have it in their thinking. Discipline of the mind means saying no to thoughts that don't serve your mission. It means choosing focus over distraction. It means holding yourself to a standard even when no one else is watching. That's not about being harsh, it's about being intentional. Because if you don't train your mind to stay focused, the world will constantly hijack your attention. Now, let's get honest for a moment. Discipline doesn't feel good at first. It's uncomfortable. That's why most people avoid it. It's easier to procrastinate, easier to react than to prepare, easier to coast than to climb. But that comfort is temporary. And the cost of avoiding discipline is massive. You pay for it in missed potential, in late nights filled with stress and scrambling, in knowing deep down that you're capable of more, but you didn't follow through. Discipline, on the other hand, gives you something that lasts. Confidence. And not the loud, ego-driven kind of confidence. I'm talking about quiet confidence, the kind that says, I've done the work. I'm ready. That's the kind of person who walks into meetings with clarity, who handles setbacks with calm, who earns trust, not demands it. Discipline is also the antidote to overwhelm. So many people feel buried under their own lives, not because they're lazy, but because they haven't built habits that keep things moving forward. When you have discipline, you don't have to rely on willpower. You don't need to make every decision from scratch. You've already decided. You've created a rhythm, and that rhythm protects you when life gets chaotic. Think about elite athletes. They don't train when they feel like it. They train because it's Tuesday. They don't wonder what to eat or when to sleep. It's already part of the plan. That discipline frees them to focus their energy on performance. The same applies to you. The more of your life you build into intentional routines, your morning, your planning, your learning, your mindset, the more space you create for creativity, growth, and excellence. And here's something people often forget: discipline is contagious. When you live with discipline, people notice, they trust you more, they follow you more willingly, not because you're perfect, but because you're consistent. And consistency builds credibility. Now, if you've struggled with discipline, here's what I want you to know. You're not broken. You're not weak. You just need a better system. Start small. Pick one area of your life. Maybe it's how you start your morning or how you manage your time. And build a simple routine around it. Then show up for it every day, even when you don't feel like it. Especially when you don't feel like it. Over time, that small discipline becomes a muscle. And that muscle builds momentum. And momentum builds trust, not just from others, but in yourself. Because that's what discipline really gives you, trust. You begin to trust your own word. You say you'll do something and then you do it. That's how self-respect is built. Not through talk, but through follow-through. So when people ask you what it means to win every day, don't point to your results. Point to your process. The win isn't in the outcome. The win is in the reps, the choices, the follow-through, the little acts of discipline that no one else sees but that shape everything others do. Because freedom, real freedom, isn't doing whatever you want whenever you want. Real freedom is waking up and knowing that you are prepared, that you are grounded, that you can trust yourself to do what matters even when it's hard. And that's what it means to train your mind. Not to control every outcome, but to take full responsibility for your effort, your energy, and your intention. Day after day after day, that's how you win. That's how you build a life worth showing up for. One disciplined choice at a time. Every person who has achieved something meaningful has one thing in common: struggle. Not the kind of struggle we glamorize after the fact. The real kind. The uncertain, uncomfortable, lonely kind. The kind that makes you question yourself, that forces you to sit with doubt, that makes you want to quit and yet somehow also moves you forward. The difference between people who win consistently and those who don't isn't that they face less struggle, it's that they see it differently. They don't run from the hard moments. They don't try to avoid the pain, the failure, the resistance. They understand something most people don't. Struggle isn't the thing that gets in the way of the win. Struggle is the way. We're told over and over again that success should feel good, that we should love what we do and follow our passion. And while there's truth in that, we've also created a dangerous illusion. The idea that if something is hard, maybe it's not meant for us. Maybe we're not cut out for it. Maybe we should pivot, take the easier path, look for something more aligned. But the truth is, anything worth building is going to challenge you. If it doesn't, it's probably not big enough. The real test of whether you're on the right path isn't whether it's smooth, it's whether you're willing to keep going when it's not. Think about growth. Physical, emotional, mental. Growth always requires tension. It requires stress. In the gym, you break down muscle to build it back stronger. In your mind, you challenge old beliefs to make room for better ones. In your life, you go through friction in relationships, uncertainty in your career, discomfort in your routines. And that friction, when you face it directly, becomes fuel. The problem isn't the struggle. The problem is the story we tell ourselves about the struggle. Most people see struggle as a sign to stop, as a red flag. But what if it's a green light? What if it's the signal that you're actually on the edge of growth? You can train your mind to reframe the struggle not as a failure, but as feedback. Not as punishment, but as preparation. The question isn't, how do I avoid the struggle? The question is, how do I use it? Because the truth is, every great achievement is built on a foundation of unseen effort. The breakthroughs, the wins, the applause, they all sit on top of layers of frustration, late nights, rejection, and silence. And if you ask those who've achieved something significant, they won't tell you the struggle was a detour. They'll tell you it was the journey. There's a moment that happens in every worthwhile pursuit, the moment where it gets harder than you expected. and longer than you hoped. And in that moment, you have a choice. You can shrink or you can stretch. You can pull back or you can lean in. When you learn to expect struggle, you stop being surprised by it. When you stop being surprised, you stop wasting energy on resistance. You start directing that energy into action. Think about a runner. A long-distance runner doesn't panic when they hit mile 18 and their legs start to scream. They expect that moment. They've trained for it. That pain is part of the race. It doesn't mean stop. It means this is where the real race begins. The same is true in life. The real test is never how you act when everything's going well. It's who you are when things feel like they're falling apart. Do you keep your character? Do you hold your values? Do you stay connected to your why? This isn't about being tough for the sake of toughness. It's about understanding that discomfort is the tuition you pay for growth, and the best performers, not just in sports, but in leadership and creativity and service, they know this. They don't chase easy. They embrace meaningful difficulty. But there's more. Reframing the struggle isn't just about endurance, it's about identity. Every time you push through a challenge, every time you keep showing up when it would be easier to quit, you reinforce the kind of person you are. Struggle isn't just shaping the outcome, it's shaping you. That's the deeper win. Not just hitting the goal, but becoming the person who could. Someone who has resilience, integrity, grit. Someone who knows that setbacks are not verdicts, they're just data. Now, this mindset doesn't come naturally. You have to build it. You have to train it. And the way to do that is to reflect differently. When things go wrong, don't just ask, why did this happen to me? Ask, what is this teaching me? How am I growing because of this? That shift in language creates a shift in perspective, and that perspective shift is everything. It also helps to share the struggle. Too many people isolate themselves when things get hard. They wear a mask, pretend they've got it all together. But strength isn't about isolation. It's about connection. It's about being vulnerable enough to say, this is hard, and courageous enough to keep moving anyway. The most inspiring people aren't the ones who make it look effortless. They're the ones who are honest about the effort. They show us that it's possible to go through something hard and come out stronger, that we can bend without breaking, that pain can be purposeful. So the next time you hit a wall, and you will, remind yourself, this is not the end. This is a chapter, a necessary one. The hard days are part of the story, not a detour from it. And often, they're the part that makes the rest of the story matter. You don't need to fear the struggle, you need to use it. Let it shape you. Let it reveal what you're capable of. Let it sharpen your focus, deepen your resilience, and strengthen your belief in what's possible. Because the people who win, the ones who truly train their minds to win every day, don't wait for perfect conditions. They know the win includes the work. And they're willing to do the work, especially when it's hard. Not because it's easy, but because it's worth it. Focus is not about how long you can concentrate. Focus is about what you choose to give your energy to. And in a world where everything is fighting for your attention, protecting your focus is no longer a luxury. It's a necessity. It's survival. It's leadership. You only get so much energy in a day, so many decisions, so much clarity. And if you allow your attention to be pulled in a dozen directions before noon, don't be surprised if your motivation is gone by the afternoon. Focus is a resource, and like any resource, it can be depleted, misused, or invested wisely. The people who win, the ones who consistently show up, perform, grow, and lead, are not the ones with more time. They're the ones who guard their focus with intention and discipline. There is this myth that successful people are always busy, always multitasking, always doing 10 things at once. But when you actually sit with the most effective people, what you'll find is simplicity. What you'll find is clarity. They know what matters. And just as importantly, they know what doesn't. And they've built their lives around protecting the space to work on what truly counts. And we don't talk enough about the cost of distraction. Not just the obvious cost of wasting time, but the deeper cost. Distraction erodes momentum. It steals your ability to go deep. It interrupts your thinking just long enough to make you feel busy, but keeps you from actually building anything meaningful. It's not just a productivity issue, it's a purpose issue. Because if you don't control your focus, someone else will. That's the real danger. If you don't define what deserves your attention, you'll find yourself reacting to everything, every email, every ping, every piece of news, every post. And slowly, without even realizing it, your life becomes a series of responses instead of a pursuit of intention. You're not leading anymore, you're just keeping up. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can take your focus back. And when you do, everything changes. The quality of your work improves, your creativity sharpens, your relationships deepen, you make better decisions, you get more done, not because you're rushing, but because you're intentional. You stop trying to do everything and you start doing the right things. And that is the difference between movement and progress. So how do you protect your focus in a world that's built to steal it? You start by creating boundaries. And I don't just mean turning your phone on silent, I mean designing your environment to reflect your priorities. If your desk is cluttered, your calendar overbooked, your inbox overflowing, then your mind is likely scattered too. Clean up your space, both physical and digital. Clarity outside creates clarity inside. When you create that space, protect it fiercely. You also need to be ruthless about your yes. Every time you say yes to something that doesn't align with your values or goals, you are saying no to something that does. Focus is not just about attention, it's about intention. Every yes should be measured against a standard. Does this move me closer to the person I want to be and the mission I'm committed to? And if the answer is no, be willing to walk away, even if it's a good opportunity, even if people expect you to say yes. Because protecting your focus often means disappointing others, so you don't disappoint yourself. But let's be honest, protecting your focus isn't just about the outside world. It's also about what's happening in your own mind. Distraction isn't always external. Sometimes the biggest distraction is the voice in your head telling you you're not ready, not qualified, not good enough. And if you don't learn to challenge that voice, it will quietly sabotage your potential every single day. That's why mindset matters so much. Training your mind isn't about pretending everything's okay. It's about developing the strength to notice when your focus is slipping and the discipline to bring it back over and over again. The mind, left untrained, will wander. That's normal. The power comes in the return. The power comes from the practice. There's something else we're saying here. Protecting your focus doesn't mean isolating yourself from the world. It doesn't mean becoming unavailable or rigid. It means being present. When you're in a conversation, be in the conversation. When you're working, actually work. When you're resting, actually rest. Presence is one of the most powerful forms of focus. And yet, most people spend their lives in split attention. Physically here, mentally somewhere else. And they wonder why nothing feels whole. Presence allows you to pour your full self into the moment, and that's where real impact happens. That's where leadership is felt. That's where creativity comes to life. It's not about doing more. It's about being fully in what you choose to do. And yes, that takes courage. Because when you protect your focus, you will stand out. You'll do things differently. You'll say no when others say yes. You'll close your laptop when the world tells you to stay plugged in. You'll choose deep work over quick wins. And some people won't understand. That's okay. You're not here to be understood by everyone. You're here to live aligned with your values, your vision, your voice. Winning every day isn't about staying busy. It's about staying centered. It's about waking up and remembering what matters, and then fighting quietly and daily to protect the space to pursue it. Because what you focus on consistently, you become. And if you give your attention to the wrong things long enough, you lose yourself in the process. But if you protect it, if you honor it, then your focus becomes your superpower. A tool for clarity, a compass for decision-making, a magnet for momentum. You don't need more time, you need more intention. You need the courage to cut the noise and the wisdom to come back to what matters. Because in the end, the most valuable thing you can offer this world is not your time, it's your undivided presence. And that is something worth protecting. People spend so much time trying to change their behavior, trying to be more productive, more disciplined, more confident, more consistent, but they often miss the most important lever: identity. Because what you do is driven by who you believe you are. If you believe you're someone who always quits when it gets hard, you will. If you believe you're someone who thrives under pressure, you'll find a way. Our actions may appear to be choices, but more often they're reflections of the story we believe about ourselves. That story, the identity we carry, is the foundation beneath every decision we make, every habit we build, and every result we achieve. When we talk about training the mind to win every day, we cannot skip this part, because your identity silently shapes your performance. It dictates what you try, how you try, and for how long you keep trying. If you're only focused on what you want to achieve without addressing who you believe yourself to be, you're building a house on sand. We see this play out in the world all the time. Someone wants to get healthy, so they try a new diet or a new workout plan. But deep down, they still see themselves as the kind of person who struggles with discipline. So when life gets hard, when work gets busy or motivation dips, what do? They default back to the story. I knew I wouldn't stick with it. That story becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And the same thing happens in business. A leader wants to be more decisive, more visionary, more inspiring, but inside they still carry the identity of someone who's unsure, who's reactive, who's afraid of being seen. And because they haven't shifted that internal story, their behavior can't sustain the change they're trying to make. This is not a mindset trick. This is a deep principle of human behavior. And the fastest, most sustainable way to change what you do is to change what you believe about who you are. But identity doesn't shift because you say it once. It shifts when you prove it to yourself. You build belief through action. When you show up on time, even when it's inconvenient, you cast a vote for being reliable. When you push through a workout when you wanted to quit, you cast a vote for being resilient. When you speak up in a meeting, even though your voice shakes, you cast a vote for being courageous. These votes add up. They become evidence. And that evidence becomes belief. Belief becomes identity. Identity becomes behavior. Behavior becomes results. This is the chain most people skip. And it's why so many burn out trying to force change from the outside in. It's also why it's so important to notice the labels you give yourself. The quiet ones. The ones you don't say out loud, but that live in the back of your mind. I'm not a morning person. I'm terrible at public speaking. I always mess things up. I can't focus. I'm not a leader. These aren't facts, they're interpretations, and yet you live according to them as if they're laws of nature. The good news is, if you learn these identities, you can unlearn them. You can rewrite the narrative. Not by reciting affirmations in the mirror, but by consistently choosing actions that reflect the person you want to become. Want to be a disciplined person? Start by doing one thing every day that you don't feel like doing. Want to be a leader? Start by serving others before serving yourself. Want to be a person of integrity? Start by keeping the small promises you make to yourself. Your identity doesn't change all at once. It shifts through repetition, through proof. And here's the beautiful part. As your identity evolves, everything else becomes easier. You don't have to convince yourself to act like a disciplined person. You are a disciplined person. You don't have to pretend to be confident. You are confident because you've proven to yourself that you can handle hard things. This is why the best leaders, the best performers, the most grounded human beings you'll meet, they don't just have strong habits. They have a strong sense of who they are. They know their values. They know what they stand for. They have a deep-rooted sense of identity that anchors them in moments of uncertainty. But identity isn't just about strength. It's also about humility. It's being willing to look at yourself honestly and ask, who am I becoming? Because we're all becoming something, either by design or by default. And if you're not intentional, the world will shape your identity for you. Your job, your title, your social media metrics, your past mistakes, all of these will try to define you. But none of them have to. You get to choose. every single day. Identity is not fixed. It's not something you're born with and stuck with. It's dynamic, it's responsive, and most importantly, it's within your control. Every time you choose action over avoidance, truth over comfort, growth over fear, you reinforce a new identity. And when you build that identity with intention, your performance begins to align naturally. People often ask, how do I stay motivated? But motivation fades. What lasts is identity. When the identity is solid, the discipline becomes automatic. The focus becomes natural. The effort becomes a habit. You don't need to fight for it every day. It becomes who you are. That's the real power of training your mind. It's not just about changing how you think. It's about transforming who you believe you are. Because once you believe you're the kind of person who shows up, who pushes through, who stays aligned, who grows through resistance, that belief changes everything. And the best part, no one can take it from you, not your circumstances, not your critics, not even your past. Because identity, once earned, becomes your foundation, your compass, your strength. So train your mind not just to do more, but to become more. Build the habits that reflect the person you want to be. Honor the promises you make to yourself, and choose every single day to become someone worth believing in. That's how you win. From the inside out. One identity-shaping action at a time.